thank you guys very much. Wow. That was awesome.
I'm glad you liked it. That was crazy.
So crazy.
All right, so I just want to introduce myself real quick. I was the third captain of the, I'm not using that, I can, yeah. Can everybody hear me? Are we good? Yeah. All right, I was the third captain of the Missouri State chapter of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. And JT was the second. I don't know where, is JT here yet? Twittering and blogging.
He said he was going to be here like 2 hours ago.
Okay, that's cool. But anyway, we've been working on this movie for the past 4 years, as long as Skepticon's been going on. You guys have been a part of it the entire time, and it means so much that you come out and watch it tonight. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you. Usually I'm in the lion's den, because when we show this, it's like 90% Christians, and everyone gives me shit. Every time they ask me if I believe in God, so I'm just going to answer that real quick. No, I do not believe in God after the plane crash. And so with that being said, I hope the same questions go to the Christians. So, if you have any questions, we'd love to have them.
I just gotta say, that's the most humanistic movie I've ever seen from 2/3 Christian group.
What do you mean exactly by humanistic? Just curious.
There's so much in this movie that talks about what you guys did as three human beings, individuals, and I didn't hear anything about Jesus getting credit for it or God getting credit for it. And even though I know that influences your worldview, the fact that you showed what three normal people could do just speaks volumes to me. I thought that was, I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Thank you.
So how are you guys?
You get 2 questions?
Yeah. All right, go ahead. How are you doing now? Because I mean, you guys went through a hell of a lot, and you seem to be doing all right. Are things good with you now?
I'm very up and down. My head's still a little goofy from all that situation. It sneaks up on me, but it's less frequent than it was before. It's definitely kind of just changed how I feel about life and death. Some days it's good, some days it's bad. At first, after it, I really felt like the world was a much scarier place. And then going through all the experience, I see that the world is a much more beautiful place because it is that scary. But yeah, I'd say I'm doing pretty good right now.
Yeah, after I got surgery March 25th, 2010, they removed about 10 inches of my intestines. It took me about a month to recover, but since then I've been able to eat and hold stuff down, and so I'm doing really well. I'm able to, the back injury doesn't really bother me. I'm able to run, exercise, do manual labor, that kind of thing. So I feel really blessed that, to be here and to be all right. I still have some issues, but irregularity is one way you might put it.
He's farting like crazy.
It's interesting for me. My dad is big into herbal cleanses and natural medicine. We're not like Christian scientists or anything like that. But I never got vaccinated for anything or took any malaria medicine. Yellow fever was mandatory in order to leave Kenya and go back, but I've been to Kenya before without having any vaccinations. And throughout the whole 3.5 months traveling through 6 countries, I never got sick once, never had diarrhea once, never got malaria, anything. It was really strange. I did the least to try to prevent everything from happening, and we got the least that happening to me.
His brother did get malaria though, so.
Yeah. Oh yeah, my brother. My brother, the cameraman went with us. And he's actually an agnostic. He says that he doesn't know if there's a God, that he doesn't think we are ever capable of really understanding if there is or not. But I don't know, just last Friday I was talking to him and he said that he's been seeing God work in his life. And I was like, did that just come out of your mouth? Are you serious? So.
What do you think is the most effective thing that people in the West can do? Because the traditional, the conventional foreign aid system of, where we give, American government gives to governments there, doesn't seem to have worked very well. What would you think would be the better way to go about, helping?
There's lots of good things you can do. For me, I was skeptical about everything, just the aid that had currently been giving. I didn't know if it actually worked. The one thing that when we studied it and kind of looked into it that just really hammered home for me, and I was like, this is a good idea. It's something called kiva.org, and it's basically funding microloans for people who, it's no interest loans. It's someone who wants to start a business in Africa or other foreign countries. they can apply for maybe $1,000 just to start their business, and then you can do a minimum of $25 donation to start that program. And then once they get that amount of money through all people donating to that, they have to pay it back within a certain amount of time. So it's really, they're accountable for the idea. You can clearly see that it's working, and then you get your money back, and it's not a handout, so you can reinvest that. Interesting thing this year is I do the video work for Skepticon as well. And with the speaker's permission, what I'm going to do is I'm going to monetize those videos, and the revenue that comes from that, I'm going to directly purchase microloans with that. So Skepticon's going to be doing good things.
Yeah, definitely. Just the way that we go about helping people can actually hurt them more than it helps them, and can cause like paternalism and enabling instead of actually empowering. To where they're sustainable in the way that we help them, and there's definitely a lot of lessons that can be learned with the way that aid has been given, the way that it has hurt people. I mean, as a Christian, I would say that I believe the church is the best way, just because it's so important when you're trying to help someone to have someone on the ground, so that when you're helping them, it's through relationship. And I just believe that through a local church, which is pretty much everywhere in the world, any Christian anywhere can plug into a church and have commonalities in believing in, of the Bible and Jesus as their Savior, and they can automatically, as we travel through 6 countries, in every country, every city we went to, we always met Christians who were just like, hey, like there's just this camaraderie between us, and to then say, so you have a church of this many people, and they have these kind of needs, like you are in contact with them, how can we help you help them, just like through that relationship, I think is the best way to try to help someone.
And one thing that I like to say, like, I hope if anybody gets out of this film, everybody that shows this film to, is ask themselves 2 questions. First, what breaks your heart? Like, was it something in this film? Was it HIV? Was it extreme poverty? Maybe it's the environment here in America. Maybe it's poverty here in America. Kind of figure out what it specifically tugs on your heart, and then ask yourself, what makes you come alive? Like, what when you do it, time just flies by. It's a talent that's been praised in you. It's just something that you really get joy out of doing. So ask those 2 questions. What breaks your heart? What makes you come alive? And put those 2 things together. Because I think, like, for me, it's what I love doing is making movies. And what breaks my heart is young people without a purpose. And so I try to put those 2 together with this film. So I think that's a really great way, because you can get overloaded with all the different issues and all the different things. And I think the best thing you can do, because guilt will fade. Guilt about like how much money you have and how much you can help those people. What will last is what breaks your heart and what you're good at. And I think sticking with those 2 things will be good.
I've been seeing stuff like that since I was little, just like, oh, send $1 a day and it'll help. I'm like, does this actually help? And so one of the things we were brainstorming when we were figuring out the movie was, we should go meet this kid. We should go meet this kid that we're sponsoring. Dan was sponsoring a kid, has been since he went to Africa the first time, and he's going to tell you the story of how he went to go meet his kid.
Yeah, well, when I went in 2005 in my church, I saw this little kid. He was like a bad little kid. He's always hitting all the other kids and stuff. And he was really cute. And then like when I came home, I had like these pictures of all these kids, and I saw that little kid. I'm like, I don't want that one. And so for the last 6 years, I've been sponsoring this little kid named Vincent. And you kind of wonder, like, does my money really go to him? Like, I ran with the organization, and it was pretty grassroots, and I met the kid, so I felt pretty good about it. But when we returned, the kid had grown so much, and he was so healthy, and he obviously knew who I was. Like, I knew this was the guy that was helping him, go to school and all this stuff. But he was really shy and really nervous. We took him out, and we got some mango juice, We're like, what do you want? He's like, I want mango juice. And I'm like, you want a big glass or a small glass? It's like big. And I got him this glass. It was so huge. Like, I couldn't even drink it. And he drank like that much. That was hilarious. The big one. But he was a cute little kid, and we actually we found out we kind of stole him, because like we thought we had permission, but you kind of don't know who's who, and like that was his uncle who gave us permission. So us people calling us and stuff. I say, where's that kid? You stole our kid.
Mango trafficking.
Yeah, mango trafficking.
I had to try.
Yeah, back there in the
I just have a question. So the first part, I guess, is did you drink like the local water all the time, or did you have filtered water? Because the movie kind of came off that you just drink like dirty water once. And the second part is, like a big thing that I got from this was how bad the infrastructure was due to the illegality of a lot of the location, like where people were living. Do you think that was that's a huge contributing factor to why like the roads aren't paved, or is that just everywhere?
I'll answer the first one. Yeah, we make it kind of like, we talk about changing that, because it makes it appear to that we're just drinking the local water, but we were, but that water was boiled, and everything that we did drink was either boiled or we had this thing called a steri pen, and you could put it in the water as UV, just add it for like 90 seconds and kill everything. So we never actually drank out of the rivers or out of wells without doing something to treat the water.
It was dirty water, but it wasn't like infected water.
Yeah.
So I kind of
tasted
probably should change that voice up.
And there was some bacteria.
Go over there and drink the water and you poo in your brain.
All right, next question.
And then the infrastructure question. I would say a lot of it is about what he was talking about, like governments, they're getting money to build up infrastructure, and instead they're spending it, amassing this great wealth and depriving the common people was a really big issue. One huge issue also is that, African countries have only been free for like 50 or 60 years from colonial powers. And a lot of the colonial powers actually set up what's called monocrop economies, and infrastructures that basically took the crop they were taking, like coffee or something, from like the center of the country and just took it all the way out to the ocean. So there wasn't infrastructure built for people to live, it was just infrastructure generally built, like trains and those kind of systems, built to take the wealth and extract it. And so there's a lot of leftover from colonial impact in that sense. So it's kind of that, corruption. I mean, and Africa's massive. I don't know if you know, but like our typical map doesn't actually represent the actual size of Africa. There's something called the Peters map that better represents the geographical size, and Africa is just way more massive than it looks. Greenland is like nothing like it is on a globe, and then like Africa is much bigger, and so it's a very vast area.
I know the two of you weren't able to really fulfill everything you planned to for the documentary, but is there anything the three of you did not get out of this that you had hoped to in the end?
Is there anything all three of us got out of it, or didn't get out of it that we hoped to, besides like the whole idea of not getting to go across Africa in a plane crash?
I got everything I wanted to get out of it and more. I didn't really have any expectations. I kind of just went along for the ride. So there wasn't when I got home, I was like, man, I wish I would have dug a well. It was just like, man, I'm glad to be home from that place,
Yeah, that's the first time I've ever been asked that.
Yeah.
Question.
There was a part in the movie where I was just like, sitting in Grace's village of 100 people with no electricity, no running water. I was just like, this is exactly what I was hoping I would experience. So in many ways, I did kind of experience what I was hoping to. I mean, you guys might not like this, but other than like just being along, for the ride with Rob, just hoping to kind of see him and his relationship with God, that's something that I was hoping for.
It's kind of, you kind of stole like half my thunder, it's like everything, besides Africa, it's like that was kind of everything I missed out on. Like when I started editing the film, David had about 60 hours of footage, and I just saw all the places he went and all the beautiful things he did, and just that experience I wanted. And like I wanted to, it was kind of weird, I wanted to know God better myself by experiencing suffering. But I thought it'd be like, in Africa, and hunger, and like, it'd be something totally different than what I did get. And so I still got that too. Like, I don't know. I can't think of anything.
Good question though.
Yeah. An Oscar?
There was someone back here. That's better. Raise their hand a whole bunch. Yeah, this guy.
How to keep your cameras from being broken or stolen or even charged up while you're hitchhiking?
I like to charge up because that one's easy. McDonald's is pretty much the U.S. Embassy anywhere around the world. So anytime we can go get a $1 cheeseburger, we spend at least $1 of our money, and we sat there for like 6 hours and charged everything. It works.
And then not getting robbed.
Yeah, there were a couple like pretty crazy things that happened. One, me and my brother Tim were on what they call a boda, just a little motorcycle, with a third guy actually driving it, just a little dirt bike type of thing. And the tire blew up, and so we're like squeezed on this motorcycle, and then it starts like wobbling, and so we start going one way, and we all lean the other way, and it tipped over and like kind of lived. We were on this dirt road, maybe just going like 30 miles an hour. We ended up sliding about 10-15 feet, just kind of getting like, we had flip-flops on, kind of got some bloody feet. Tim like rolled on the camera, and like we heard a big like crunch noise. We're like, oh no! So we opened up. It was just a little tape that like busted, And so yeah, I mean that was just kind of like, oh, I'm so glad that we didn't break our camera.
Our camera was actually, we shot most of the movie on that camera she's shooting right now. It's like that big.
We did lose our XHA1, which was that big camera you saw, and the plane. We lost that, snapped it right in half, and then we lost one of the HV30s, which I was holding in my hand. That's the footage that was recovered. The footage from the big camera was burned up, and we sent it to the NTSB to try and reconstitute it, but they never got back to it, so.
And then there was just one story, I personally thought that it would be a lot more dangerous than it was. My brother Tim had to go ahead and meet up with Georgia Shoeman while I was still in the hospital with Dan. They had flown back, so I went to meet up with Tim and was supposed to take a bus around 4, but they just sat there until it got full, which I didn't, they don't run here like, yeah, we're leaving exactly this time. So we didn't leave till like 8 or 9, and instead of getting there at like 10, we got there at like 2 in the morning. They dropped me outside of a bar in this little city in western Kenya. So I'm standing there with a big backpack all alone in the middle of the night, trying to get a hold of my brother, try to wake him up to figure out which place he's staying or how to get there. And these 2 drunk guys come out and they're like staring at me and like kind of looking at me, and they just started singing the song and dancing in the middle of the street for me. And I was just like, maybe it's so maybe this isn't as bad as I thought it'd be. It's dangerous. But there was one instance where there's a city called Mwanza, it means like city of boulders, and there's just a bunch of outcropping of rocks that me and Tim had climbed up. And like 5, 17, 18-year-old kids followed us up there while we were climbing on these boulders, and we were away from the city. And they kind of circled around Tim and started saying camera in Swahili, is camera. So we're like, okay, looks like these guys might want to rob us. And so we just started walking down the boulders, trying to get back around people. And I was behind Tim. He like went ahead and they grabbed my book bag. And I turned around and yelled at this guy who had like 4 guys behind him. I just said, don't touch my bag, like pretty loud, and pointed at him. I turned back around and he grabbed it and pulled me backwards. And I actually turned around and jabbed him in his neck with my hand. Like I went, and I yelled at him. I said, don't touch my bag. And he just like was stunned. I was like ready to say, go, hey, grab on. But they just stood there, and we just got out there quickly. But other than that, just some teenage kids kind of messing with us. We didn't have any issues of anything being stolen, any run-ins with anyone. Really, that was that scary or threatening.
Should we maybe get something in the back here?
I believe this underscores the point that religious belief is neither necessary nor sufficient to getting involved in helping other people. And also, I would really ask, David, why did you cut your hair? You're not dating that beautiful sailor woman.
Well, that's the first part.
Something about Wooly.
We wanted to hear your punch.
No, get that second part. I've been to Malawi twice. I'll tell you a little bit about Win the Saints. I went in March with my pastor, my father, and then we went and I spent all summer, for the most part alone, in Malawi, Southeast Africa. We're building a rehabilitation center for teenage girls who are forced into prostitution and are victims of sexual exploitation. And our goal is by next summer to raise $125,000. So we acquired 3 football fields worth of land from the senior chief right outside of the city that is internationally known for being the place that grown men will go and sleep with young teenage girls. And the senior chief just gave us this huge plot of land for free and says we would love for this to come and be built here. And so we're working. We just had our launch last Saturday. We started with a dessert banquet fundraiser for the organization, Win the Saints, like Win the Saints from marching in. It's just winthesaints.com. We raised $28,000 on like our launch. It was pretty cool.
So it's like one we like raised the whole movie to shoot with them.
David does it in one day.
So anyway, in Malawi, I have my dreads. I had it for a year and 3 months. I just cut them over the summer because in Malawi they're like a lot less progressive in their thinking. They're like, I kind of picture them being like what America was like in the 50s. They're real conservative and only drug dealers have dreadlocks. And so like going and starting this ministry for prostitutes and having dreads is like not a good combo. So I had to cut them off. I wish that I still had that.
Yeah.
Something I'm clear on is why God has allowed all the problems that exist in your film to be in the first place, including the crash. Why isn't he already fixed?
Well, yeah, I would say, like, I think that's, sometimes we go to churches and stuff and people are like, oh, God saved you guys, isn't that a miracle and rescue? And Rob, for Rob, it's like, well, what about the two pilots? These are just two guys whose lives are devoted to God, who have 4 kids each. And so I think why bad things happen is often a mystery. But I would kind of rephrase that question and say, why do we find so much good stuff on the way? I mean, I know there's the problem of evil, but there's also kind of a problem of good, I feel like. Yeah. So that's mine. It could be all because of society, but I also think there's a lot of good things happening in the world. And I don't know. So I would flip that question.
I think what changed my perspective severely is, not that it was really much different, but when I went to Africa and interacted with people living in extreme poverty, I kind of talked about it, just the level of joy that they had, despite this immense suffering that they're going through on a daily basis. And just like how it just doesn't make any sense. It's so counterintuitive. How can you experience so much suffering but have such a strong sense of community and interconnectedness and just invite the stranger in and just love as if we've known each other for our whole lives, just how inspiring that is. And I started thinking about it, I was like, in America, I'm telling the Africans, like, we're always wondering, like, there's so much suffering over here. Because in Malawi and Eastern Africa, it's like 70-80% Christian. So I'm talking mostly to Christians, and I just say, there's a lot of Americans who question the existence of God because of what you guys experience on a daily basis. And they're like, really? And I would explain this to them. And in my head, they were so surprised. I was like, I wonder if ever these people living in extreme poverty are sitting around the table asking them each other guys, I don't know if I can believe in God because people in America are so incredibly wealthy, but they're such a depressed nation. They're on so many drugs, and depression is so terrible, and the divorce rate is so terrible. I don't know if I can believe in a God that allows so much suffering to happen to people who are so wealthy. So it's just experiencing and interacting with people living in extreme poverty is radically redefined what happiness is, and how someone can suffer so much but still have so much joy and such a deep relationship with God. So,
what do the charities in Africa do to help educate those people, make them mechanically inclined to help themselves, to build water systems, to build things, to take care of those things, take care of themselves, and not have to rely on quote-unquote Christian charity all the time?
Yeah, just from one of the things, I'm actually bringing, I met a 15-year-old girl named Gladys. She was a prostitute for 2 years. She lost her parents at the age of 6, and so to get her off the streets, we put her into an educational facility like this rehabilitation center and do counseling and train her in her vocation so that she can then, when she gets 18, or I plan on the program being about a year to 2 years. I don't want to keep them there for a really long time, but once they get some kind of vocational training to let's say sew something, then they can go in and start a business sewing things in the market for people to make a living so that they're then kind of like Cuba, it's just empowering them to start a business which will then strengthen the economy and allow them to make a living so that they're not, and some of them are, choosing, they do choose to sleep with men because Gladys told me, she was like, hey, if I want to eat today, I have to sleep with men. She doesn't see any other option, so to empower them into another option so that they can go out and then strengthen the economy as they support themselves.
I think any good charity should be about empowerment. Christian or non-Christian, secular, should all be about getting people. There's this great quote you said that you want to leave that place and people say we did it, not somebody else did it. When it is Westerners coming in and they take it less seriously, they don't own the work. So pretty much, I think that's entirely changing, and all organizations are trying to empower people, not just get handed outs.
What surprised you most about African Christianity? Did you get any theological arguments with anybody there?
For Rob?
One of the things that surprised me was they are very much set in conforming to one denomination. A missionary will go there from one denomination. In Malawi, Presbyterianism is huge. Someone from the Presbyterian church comes and says this is the denomination you guys have to believe in. And I'm just like, what? No, I'm a non-denominational Christian. I'm just someone who follows Jesus. Why do you have to follow a man who has an interpretation of how to do that? You just have the Bible, And they're just like, really? That just kind of blew their mind. Wait, I have a label? I can just be with Jesus? Yeah. It was really surprising how they just felt like they had to put themselves in a label and a box. I was like, no.
All right, who thinks they got the best question? That guy.
He's got 2 arms.
It'd be really easy to sit here and rip apart your superstitions like a bunch of douchebags. It's what, it's fun to do. But I think you guys, regardless of your differences of beliefs of all of us, radical people, I'm very excited that you did this, and I think it's super awesome. And so, regardless of what we disagree about in the world or what the hell ever, I think it's awesome that you came here, and it was a great movie, and I feel like it was in line. So. Woo!
Like to get a little restless, so we're gonna wrap up and thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, we'll be hanging out outside of the